Thank you. I really appreciate being invited to this wonderful event, very important event. I'm not against wearing suits, but I thought I would just come to you in the same way that I come to people in the villages of Pakistan. I just wear my T-shirt. So this is kind of how I show up there. So this is kind of how I show up here. Thank you. I'm a musician. I'm a guitar player, singer-songwriter. And I underwent a radical change on 9/11. On 9/11, I woke up that morning to go play a show at CBGB's nightclub. I'd been booked there as a musician, and that was where I was headed. Sid Bernstein, who brought the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Jethro Tull to America, worked with everyone from Tony Bennett and Frank Sinatra to Judy Garland and a lot of the stars from the 40s and 50s and early 60s, had taken me under his wing because he liked my music, even though he was kind of retired from the business. So he had set up this showcase, and I was supposed to play it on the 12th of September. Well, 9/11 happened, and I had a big van full of musical equipment. I thought I'd go down and see if I could be useful. So I went to Chelsea Piers, and they had a disaster center set up there. And I said, hey, anybody need a van? And this lady said, actually, we need a van. We have all this fruit and Gatorade and water, and Captain Greenwood, fire department commander down at Ground Zero, has asked for this stuff. He needs these things. And we were trying to figure out how we were going to get it down there. And I said, well, I'm your man. So I have hair down to here, mind you. And I get in this van, and I thought she'd radioed ahead that I was okay to go down. So I went down, and I guess because she was so busy, she didn't do that. So I got stopped in a line of what was, I had my conversion van, and there's a whole bunch of trucks, Con Edison vehicles, police and fire rescue vehicles and things. And, you know, I get stopped, and they are wondering what it is that I'm doing down there. So I explained to them, and after they checked me out, I was fine. About a week I spent there, and I learned that in the process of working down at Ground Zero, I learned something about myself, that I was good at getting supplies and medicines and things for those who are trained to rescue or go into collapsed buildings. I can't do any of that. I'm not a doctor. I have no training in disaster relief in terms of life-saving or doing any of those kinds of things. But what I was able to do was those people who are trained for those things, they have more time to do what they're trained to do if somebody backs them up, gives them food and sustenance and water and the medicines and the supplies that they use, and arranges for their vehicles and does things that keep them focused on what they're really trained to do so that they don't waste their time. And a lot of people ask me, well, how were you so good at this? How did it end up like this and just instantly, and you realized it at 9/11? Well, I never had any operational experience before, but my life's been a disaster. So if your life's been a disaster, then you can get good at disaster relief, I suppose. Because you know what other people are going through, and you know what they've been through. I lost my mom when I was 12. I got into drugs. I was addicted to cocaine, went down to the gutter. Music saved me, and I ended up resurrecting my life from something that only God saved me from, myself. I probably should have been dead a long, long time ago from an overdose of cocaine or something, or doing something stupid. So the other thing I realized was that as a musician, running my own show, dealing with managers, dealing with radio guys, dealing with record companies, dealing with setting up the gig at the end of the night, setting up and taking down the equipment at the end of the night, getting paid, dealing with band members of all kinds of personalities, all these logistical things. I kind of became a logistics person just by default, by being a musician at that level. So this radical change happened to me, and I realized after about 4 days at Ground Zero that what I was doing wasn't needed anymore. What I was needed at that time was, before the large efforts had time to take shape, when they didn't know what buildings might fall, when big supplies had not been organized, I was able to bring small things, small amounts of things, but very important things that were needed right away until the cavalry came, until the big stuff not only arrived but got set up and in motion, until the bigger system emerged and took shape. So after that, when that happened, after about 4 days, that was all complete, and I was just in the way at that point. So I left. But after I left, I was a changed man in that regard. So when the tsunami happened, I went to Sri Lanka and worked helping build houses and schools for children, worked with a really wonderful organization there. Hurricane Katrina happened. Some people that I'd worked with at 9/11 asked me to go down and work at logistics for Hurricane Katrina. I worked with the U.S. Army 82nd Airborne at Algiers Naval Station and brought 26 Zodiac boats and a big truck that the Maryland Department of Emergency Management had allocated to me. And we worked with the U.S. Army, gave them boats. They needed boats. We cleaned dirty motors and all this stuff. Then we started rescuing animals. About 2 weeks later, the waters went down. And so I went out into the city with a friend and started rescuing animals for about 3 weeks. And I got back from that trip, and my son, who is here, he's going to be a junior next year at St. Mary's College. That's another reason why I'm wearing this shirt. I'm a proud father. Thank you. He is an honors student at an honors college, St. Mary's College of Maryland. And he's taking political science, by the way. So he often talks about these kinds of issues of Pakistan and these things in his class. Anyway, I'm not sure where I was at. I tend to float around. But anyway, so where was I? Rescuing animals, that's what happened. Now I know where I'm at. So I was rescuing animals, and I got back that day and saw my son, and I'd just come in, gave him a big hug, sat down to a pizza, turned on the television, thinking that, wow, you know, it's been this tremendous effort, and now I'm going to relax for a while, maybe get back to my music, do whatever. And then within not 5 minutes of walking in the door and giving him a hug, I turned on the television, earthquake in Pakistan, terrible earthquake. And it was the 8th of October evening when I arrived in America, so it would have been the morning of the 9th. So they started to figure out how bad it was, and it was on the news. So I turned to my son. Before I knew how I was getting there, who I was going with, what I was doing, any of that plan, I just said to my son, I'm going to Pakistan. And he looked at me and said, okay, Dad. So I called the Pakistan embassy. I Googled them that moment, got the Pakistan embassy's number. I called them and said, hey, I've been doing logistics work, backing up teams of doctors and people that are trained to do disaster relief. I've been at these other disasters, so I'm volunteering if you'd like me to go. So they gave me the name of a doctor, a Pakistani-American doctor from Washington, D.C., who was going down there and going to Pakistan. And within a week of leaving Hurricane Katrina, I was in a U.S. Chinook Army helicopter landing in the disaster zone in Azad, Kashmir in Pakistan. So that journey to go to Pakistan wasn't related to 9/11 or what happened or terrorism. It was a disaster that happened there. And it happened to be this full circle because 9/11 is associated with Pakistan because of some of the extremist elements that have based themselves there. It's not really a homegrown movement, by the way. A lot of people don't realize, maybe most of you do, but a lot of people don't realize that Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and all these guys basically are a weaponized force of human beings that were weaponized by the United States of America. They were weaponized by the United States of America because they needed to get rid of the Soviet Union out of Afghanistan, and that met our strategic aims. So we helped people become great fighters. We invited and recruited people from all over the Islamic world to fight this war against this godless Soviet Union. We really played that up, printed books about violent jihad in Nebraska, gave them to these kids, made these fighters who were fearless, and they defeated the Soviet Union with the help of our money and our surface-to-air missiles that shot helicopters out of the sky. So this is a monster we helped create, big time. If anyone doesn't realize that, then they should go back and read the history books. Right now, BP has made this huge mess, and right now we're saying, BP, clean up your mess, right? Obama's saying, clean up your mess. You're responsible for it. You break it, you fix it. Well, I say to the United States government, who I love my country dearly, I say to the United States government, clean up your mess.
There you go.
You helped make this mess, so clean it up. Don't just blame it on Muslims. Don't blame it on Pakistan. Clean up your own mess that you helped make. And because you made this mess and you're responsible for a lot of it, you have to do things besides just bomb and all this stuff. A missile in Pakistan that's fired from some video game guy at CENTCOM in Pakistan, video game warfare, somebody who's not even risking his life. He fires a drone missile, and that missile cost enough money to where we could send 2,000 children in Pakistan to school for a year. Now that's what I call a weapon against terrorism.